I'm going to talk about resolution independence. That's how you protect your investment in your assets, the assets that you produce for print, for web, and we'll talk about the types of assets. Anyone in the room here work with us currently? Raise your hand, or in the past, recently. One of our project managers, or maybe Ken in the past, has asked for images or video, and he says, I want your high-res images or high-res content. What that means is we're looking for the highest quality assets that you can provide. And the types of assets that you may provide are photography, logos and marks, video, or in this case, animation, audio, and fonts. When we ask for high res, in photography we're looking for the original full resolution and lossless image. What I mean by lossless, the left side picture is a lossless image. It has no reduction of quality. If you look at the image on the right, that is a lossy image. It has artifacts around the animal, and that's due to compression. So what we're looking for in what you provide to us is the lossless image. And those types are PNG and TIFF. JPEG, which is probably a very common type that you're used to using, that's a lossy type. For graphics, we're looking for vector. And vector are ways of representing an image with math. And those types could be Adobe Illustrator, could be EPS with vectors inside, or SVG, which is scalable vector graphics. For video and audio, we're looking for your digital master file. That is the file or the source from which you create all distributed versions. So whether you distribute it for TV, for online, for YouTube, we're looking for that master file that you've created to produce that content. So we ask for the highest quality assets because we want to have creative freedom. Creative freedom when we create your layouts, when we do designs that are responsive. We want to be able to crop and zoom them to create the composition, but also to support HD or Retina devices. Those could include desktops. There are desktops that have very high resolution monitors, or laptops like the Mac Retina, tablets like most Android and iOS tablets today are high resolution or HD, and even handhelds. So it's all about delivering the highest quality content to your end users, now and in the future. If you'd like to learn how to produce content or assets that are high quality, either in photos and art or video and audio, look for Communications by Liquid in the future. We may be having some workshops to educate our clients and customers. So now I'm going to jump into mobile technology in general, and then get into a little more detail in what's under the hood for apps. In the mobility mass market, Len kind of went over some of the percentages. What I'm going to talk about is the actual devices themselves. And for that, we look at what the form factors are. And to start off with, it's really anything touch. So anything that's touch-friendly is what we're targeting. And for that, the design must have an interface that is touch-friendly. That means content and interactions are not too close together. They're spread apart so that you can easily touch them. On handhelds, tablets, and hybrids. Hybrids are those that are both a laptop and tablet, possibly combination. And this is the Microsoft Surface Pro. And even kiosks. So the same content we produce for in mobile apps or mobile web can also be applied to kiosks that you might use in a trade show or a presentation like this. So looking in more detail at what's under the hood in apps, we first concern ourselves with what operating systems are we targeting. And the three most common for us are Apple iOS, Google Android, and Windows in general, because there's a bunch of Windows operating systems. You have RT, you have Windows 8, you have Windows Phone. Hopefully they'll clarify that marketing message and make it easier to understand, but Windows is a target for us. And some common app features for those end users are notifications. That's a big one. That's reason to have an app by itself, because the notifications are unique to apps. They allow you to communicate with the end user in opt-in fashion. When you get an app, it asks you, do you want to receive notifications from this app? So that's them opting in to receive communications from you as a producer of content. Also widgets. Widgets have been coming on Android for a while, but also they're coming to iOS this fall. You'll be able to see and have interactions with notifications that pop up on your iOS devices. Social integration. Social integration is the core of most mobile operating systems, but you should also have it embedded within your mobile app. You can use that for authentication to allow a user to log into your app, and also for connecting users of your app. Also within the app, we recommend that you have an About the App or contact page. And that allows the user to communicate with you directly via email, via link, and you can get feedback from them. But also critical, I think, for enterprises especially, when you have apps that you distribute internally that they must use, it's not like they have a choice to use it, but they must use this app, it's a great way to get feedback from the end users about what's going on within the app, if they have a problem, if they have recommendations, if there's things they like to see. So common app features for marketers, those who distribute the apps, are ratings and comments. So most app stores have a way to rate and comment on your app. You should monitor those and react to those issues. Analytics, just like web, like Google Analytics. Google Analytics has a mobile version, so you can embed deep analytics into your application. So you can watch what people are doing, learn from that, and make adjustments. And also advertising. You can advertise for your mobile website. You can advertise for your app from somebody else's app. You can also embed advertising within your app, the app itself. So here are some examples of apps that are in the market, Facebook, LinkedIn, and here's 3 of ours. What's unique about these apps, these are not standalone offline applications. They are data-driven applications. They consume data from the internet or from the cloud. When you're building an app that's very dynamic, that's data-driven, there's some concerns and issues that we need to address. One is content. Where does the content come from? And if you're fortunate enough to have a content management system, that goes a long way to solving that particular issue. Membership. Do you maintain your own membership? Do you rely on Facebook or Google Plus for authentication? And are there some profiles? Are you layering information about those users within the app? Usability. That's a big one, especially for consumer apps, but also important for enterprise, is you want the users to have a very responsive or high-performance user interface. So when you load a lot of content from the cloud or from online, it can slow things down. So what you do is defer the loading of that content so the interface can respond and then present the material when it's ready to display. Scalability. To support scalability, to go from hundreds of users to millions of users, we recommend going with the service-oriented architecture, and I'll talk more about that in the next slide. Again, important for enterprises, but even for end users. Does the app need to run when it's not connected? If it does, then we need to talk about synchronization so that the user can still interact at some level and allow transactions. Regarding service-oriented architecture, I think this really came about at around 2002. This is an internal memo from Jeff Bezos to the organization. And it was all about Jeff saying, everyone in the company needs to follow these rules when they're developing software. And what he's saying is all teams must expose their data and functionality through service interfaces. That means that these things are not private and only within that particular team. What they're doing is providing a way for other teams to interact with that data and service. So he changed the way Amazon was doing business internally, not just externally, but internally. And we'll share this presentation so you can read this in your leisure, but he basically threatened employment if you didn't follow this particular rule. And we have Amazon Web Services now because of this mandate. I don't know if everyone's familiar with Amazon Web Services, but you can use Amazon Web Services for lots of different things. One is for storage. You can use it to host websites. You can use it to host backends for mobile applications. And we wouldn't have that if it wasn't for this mandate. So it really started off in a whole industry of service-oriented architecture applications. So what that really means to you is that your app running on one of these devices is communicating over the cloud or internet and talking to some service in this red cylinder to consume data. So it's a client-server relationship where the client is your mobile app, a web browser, or even your partners. Your partners may consume data this way. And on the right side, you have your content and services. And some other related terms you may hear used in conjunction with SOA are the following 3. One is infrastructure as a service. That provides a way for you to deploy your own SOA platform. So if you're developing your own thing like Amazon did, finding a way to do that with hardware and connectivity is what you call infrastructure as a service. Platform as a service, that's where you can use an existing platform to create an SOA. So Amazon provides a lot of diverse services and connected services that allow you to build your own application on top of an SOA. And there's also back-end as a service. These are becoming more popular. In fact, I believe Facebook bought Parse. So Parse is a back-end as a service. It provides a lot of functionality out of the box. I mentioned membership and authentication. Well, Parse has that built in. It allows you to build membership and authentication, social sharing, image storage. That's all built into a back-end as a service. So all you need to do is build the app and plug into that service. There's a bit more strategy and schema definition around that, but it allows you to plug into it and take advantage of it quickly. So once you have your app close to ready and you're in the middle of testing with all your end users or internal end users, you should prepare for distribution. And to do that, you need lots of icons, especially if this is a cross-platform application. If you're targeting Android, iOS, Windows, you have a lot of icons to produce. One is for the app itself, but there's also icons for notifications. And because they can be very small, it may have a different design. Icons for the App Store. You need an icon to represent what the app is in the App Store. You should also have a description. And that description should describe the app, but also sell. Because this is your first presentation to the end user when they see your app. What does it do? What does it mean? Also, screenshots. They call them screenshots, but they don't necessarily have to be just screenshots. They can be marketing material. They could be a way to present what's in your app without actually having a specific screenshot. So that could be like a billboard type approach. You should also have a support and/or marketing URL. This is a URL that if you see in the description, I know it's blurry, but there's a blue link there. That goes back to the website. At that location, the user should be able to find out more about what the app is, what it does, and how to get support. And also, we can do video. We can produce a video demonstrating what the app does and deploy that in Google Play. And coming in the fall, hopefully, a way to deploy video to the App Store so that when a person views your app description here, they'll actually be able to see a video. You can actually see that in some apps now, but Apple's controlling that. And in the fall, they should open that up to all developers. So now, once you're ready to distribute the application, there's a couple ways to do that. For iOS, you go through their App Store. It must have complete functionality. So nothing can be broken within the app before you deploy it. They do actually go through the app. It must have real content. We talked about content management systems, and sometimes when you're developing an application, the content is the last thing that gets refined. Before you submit the app, that must be refined and complete. If your service is a paid-for service, meaning there's some way to subscribe, pay for it, and get the content that you're providing, you can't provide a link directly to that subscribe page on your website. You can provide a link to the home page, but you can't provide a link directly to the subscribe page. That's a policy of Apple. And once the app is submitted, the turnaround time for approval is about 5 to 10 days. We've been seeing 4 to 6 days recently, but it depends upon what's going on in the App Store itself. For Android, you have Google Play. There's no review process. It's kind of the Wild West when it comes to apps. And you can have your app in the store in about 2 hours. So you can hit the button, it goes up in the App Store, and the website, their Google Play app will refresh and display it in about 2 hours. If you're targeting Amazon devices like the Fire, it's not really clear how long things will take, so it's a broad range here, 5 to 14 days. They are curated like Apple, so they do review the app to make sure it's appropriate for the App Store for Amazon. And for Windows, there's a certification process. It's really a technical certification and content process. It's not as formal as Apple or Amazon, and that's about 1 hour to 2 days. If you only need to distribute your app for business purposes, but you want to target businesses that are outside your organization, you can use the iOS Business App Store. That's a place that you can put your app that only businesses you allow can download your app to use. So it's a great way to make an app that's for a partner that they have to log in and see content, and you only want them to have it. That's a great way to do that on the Apple side. If your app is only for internal users, you can target any user within your organization and not go through an app store. So you can target any platform within Enterprise App Store. You can provide unlimited functionality to end users. And we've actually used this with one of our clients because they needed to use what Apple calls a private framework. We're not supposed to use it. We could use that because they were only distributing it internally. But the only problem there is you must have your own app store. Now that app store could really be one page with an icon that says download this app. Or it could be as complex as what SAP provides. And a category that you can look at for these types of tools are mobile device management, and you can find some more information about mobile app stores there. Okay, so once the app is now available, and hopefully you're actually thinking about this before the app is available, apps need promotion. They can't be standalone. There's how many, 800 million apps or something like that, some insane number of apps out there. You need to promote your app. You need to promote your app from your website. And to do that, you can use these icons to link to the place within the App Store. Communicate about the app socially. If you have a social following, via LinkedIn, via Facebook, via Twitter, use those tools to communicate your app. And also use traditional marketing, billboards, radio, TV. Also, monitor those analytics. You'd be surprised when you create an application and what you expect people to do to see what they're actually doing. You can see what time they're spending on each particular screen and what interactions they're taking. So we can track where they are, but you can also track what they did. Monitor those ratings and comments. You'll find lots of good feedback, but you may find some things that bug somebody and you want to be able to address those. But ultimately, your app is a product that needs support. So maintain it as you have issues come up, and also look to continuously improve the application. So I'm going to jump a little bit ahead, very short few slides here, about new technology. And one of them that's available now since the fall, well, it's been around since longer than that, but I would say it just started to get popular in the fall, was beacons. Apple has a standard for beacons called iBeacon, but they've also been around in one form or another, not necessarily called beacons. You might have known it as RFID before in some cases. But what beacons provide are a way to promote products and services in context. So when a person, let's say, walked into this room, we can notify you, welcome to the Liquid Lunch and Learn. You would get a pop-up on your phone because we knew you came into that door because there's a beacon in the vicinity of that door. So it allows us to get your attention just by you being in a particular vicinity. You can also use it for indoor mapping. So if you position these beacons throughout your facility, you can provide a way to provide not only information about where they are, but through triangulation provide navigation. And what's great about these beacons is they're low powered. The battery can last roughly around 2 years before you have to replace them. So you can sit them in or stick them wherever you want to go. And here's an example right here. And it stays there. You can just change it out I would say every year to be safe. And that provides that service constantly. So some other techs that we're seeing, wearables. Interesting. These have been around for a while, but I don't think they're quite the next thing that is taking off. But they're there. We'll see what Apple does in the fall. Fitness bands. Maybe some of you have something like that for fitness tracking. You can track your walk, your run. A couple of friends might have those. And also Google Glass. Google Glass was marketed originally as an augmented reality device. I think it's more of a wearable because it provides information to you when you need it. You can share quickly with it, but it's not really augmented reality. I wouldn't say it helps you with what you're doing, but it provides a way for you to share and communicate. There's a perception about the Google Glass and people who wear them. I won't say what that word is, but there you go. Don't do that.